Hello and welcome to the latest instalment of the Bottom Line podcast on the Liverpool Echo's Blood Red channel. We've been away for a few weeks, but we're back this week with a special podcast following on from Liverpool's step into the NFT market with their LFC Heroes Club launch. So, NFTs, what are they? Why have they become such a hot topic? What about the criticism around them? And what does the future hold for them in the football marketplace? Joining me, Dave Powell, today is Liverpool FC Senior Vice President of Digital Marketing, Media and Tech, Andrew Crisp, to answer some of the questions around NFTs and why the Reds have decided to make the step into this space. Drew, welcome to the Bottom Line podcast, and thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
NFTs, I mean, for me, I feel like they're not aimed at me. It's something which is a kind of an alien concept to me. I still have struggled to kind of get my head around it. In as much as I've tried in recent months, I've seen Bored Apes and cartoon pandas, etc. But obviously, this is a different step into something that Liverpool haven't tried before. But football has been heading this way for a period of time. There's a lot of clubs already entered into this market, a lot of leagues. But just as an overview, what is the LFC Heroes Club for laymen like me? What is it all about?
So I think it's, in simple terms, digital graphical assets in the form of our, amazing men's players and the first team, some of which are animated and which we call our unique one-of-ones, and some of which are static images of different, with different types, different formulations, different backgrounds, and they are our, that's called our Heroes collection. I'm trying to think of the quickest or simplest way of answering that question. I mean, it's a unique way to buy and own your own digital image in a fun way of your most favorite players. And in simple terms, that's it. It's kind of no more complicated than that.
It's something which the club have been looking at for quite some time, hadn't it? I think that about 12 months or so, maybe more than that. They've been, I know they've been canvassing some opinion from supporters through questionnaires. There'd been some engagement with, I think, Spirit of Shankly as well ahead of time. But just why did the club opt to move into this space? Like I mentioned at the top, I mean, it's here, it's here in a big way. I mean, I think most leagues and major clubs you can think of have some kind of partnership in this space. But what was the club's motivation behind it?
I think predominantly, I'd say two main reasons. One is there is a different fan base that we need to want to connect with that exist in different platforms and in different channels than maybe the traditional ones. And how do we, as a club, talk to those fans and build those communities? And clearly, NFTs, the nature of them, the way in which people engage with them, where they engage with them is very different. So actually an opportunity to build and connect with that sort of community. So that's one reason. And then, I mean, the second reason is, as you say, it's a growing market. It's clearly a route of engagement. It's clearly a route of passion for a very, very large global audience. And as we progress as a business and as a digital business, we need to be in these different markets to understand what works and what doesn't work. And if we don't try these things, then we're not challenging ourselves, we're not testing ourselves, and we're not working out what works for our fans. And so, actually, it's important that we try these things and see what works.
You've partnered with Sotheby's on this, and I've got to be honest. The last time I thought of Sotheby's or had any kind of reason for that name to come in my head was watching an episode of Only Fools and Horses when Dell manages to sell his watch for about 10 million. So to see them in the NFT space was quite odd, because obviously they're an auction house of, I don't know, they're probably about 200 years old, but they are in this space as well. I mean, how did you decide what partners to work with? Because I know you've gone with Polygon as well, which is the blockchain, for reasons being the environmental impact is claimed to be lower. So I'm just wondering how you decided upon these partners to work with.
We ran a very comprehensive process to understand all of the different options in the market that we might have, and all of the different sort of companies out there that could help us on this particular journey and with this endeavor. And it was a case of, right, we need to work with somebody that is really high end. I do apologize. Somebody that is really high end, has got a great target audience that understands how to operate auctions and sales, and indeed is in the NFT market as well. And you know, out of all of the people that we met and different companies that we spoke to, Sotheby's felt to us like a great fit. As you say, they've got a technology that plays to our values from an energy consumption perspective. They absolutely know how to do fine artwork, and actually that's their heritage, and we wanted some great digital artwork. And they know how to target an audience and sell an auction. So from all of those perspectives, it felt like the right choice.
The blockchain platform you've using, Polygon, there was obviously the environmental impact is something which has been mentioned when people have been criticizing NFTs, because obviously to mint them it uses a large amount of energy, etc. And there are some platforms which are kind of more energy consuming than others. How did you find a partner which kind of helps to mitigate those issues? And what, how is that kind of quantifiable? Because I'm fairly I'm fairly vanilla when it comes to NFTs and the environmental impact, but it's from doing some digging, they can be quite kind of detrimental to the environment through the sheer amount of energy that needs to be used to mint these.
Yeah, I mean, off the top of my head, I don't have all of the statistics, but the longer standing Ethereum-based blockchain has high amounts of energy consumption because of the way in which you exchange and contracts, and the way in which those contracts are mined within its network and how the algorithms work. And so the Polygon network and the way in which that operates is it has an ability to bundle transactions into larger lumps before it actually then goes onto the Ethereum network to go and exchange contracts and validate things. I'm going to try and explain it all because I'll probably do myself a disservice. But fundamentally, the process of which that works, and it works on a proof of stake, not proof of work. I think it's that way around. Anyway, the way in which it operates means that it actually uses less energy because it doesn't have to do the same degree of mining at the same frequency as you have to do on an Ethereum-based blockchain. So fundamentally, it has significantly lower energy consumption in how it operates, and clearly that was a big focus for us when we were looking at the right underlying capabilities and the partners that we want to work with.
There's the LFC Foundation are quite kind of core to a lot of this, aren't they? There is some of the money from the auctions a percentage of the revenue raised from the auctions will be heading back to the LFC Foundation for various work. What can you explain a little bit more about what that impact might be and kind of what the foundation might seek to benefit from that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's we also felt that as we explore this new market and as we try and test it out, and as we try and understand what resonates with fans and what doesn't, actually, how do we also use this as an opportunity to benefit some of the great things that the LFC Foundation does? So on the one of one auction, so the unique one of one images of the players, 50% of the proceeds for that will all go to the foundation, and then 10% of all of the sales of the Heroes Club NFTs and anything off of the secondary markets will also always go to the foundation. So we also felt that this is a good way, and obviously hoping that this continues to be a big success. It's also a nice way of getting a consistent fund of money into the foundation as the secondary market kicks in. So that was the intent behind it.
Have you had any early indications of how of interest in the auctions? Because I know when the first one launched, was it
yesterday.
Yesterday, wasn't it?
Yeah, 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon we launched.
Has that been, have you already, has kind of the interest been as what you would have expected?
Yes, I think we had a really big spike when it first launched, which was clearly exciting, and we've sold quite a few thousand of the Heroes collection, and we can see the bids across the 101s, and again, bids for each of the images are well into the thousands of dollars. So from that perspective, absolutely, headed in the right direction. I think what we're also seeing is that there's a global market that's interested in this, and tapping into that global market and building awareness in order for fans and people that are interested in NFTs to come to the sites to buy them is that takes a lot of work, actually, and it's something we have to keep pushing.
How important is it for the club to be active in this space? Because I know we mentioned at the top about leagues. So NBA were kind of the first to really go for it in a big way, weren't they? Through the Top Shot launch that they did, and then NBA teams followed, and then obviously it's gone into football. Was it a case of it's one of those things that the club felt they couldn't leave on the table, or is it a space which you feel is going to blow up to be even bigger, and it's something that they have to be part of if they're going to be commercially keeping up with the rest? I suppose that's the tough dynamic, isn't it?
Yeah, and it is a tough dynamic, and it is a tough choice, and of course anything new has polarized views across different markets, different fan bases, and what some fans like, other fans don't. And when you've got a global market of hundreds of millions of fans, appealing to everyone is difficult. I think from our perspective, we can see that this is a big market, right? So the market of NFTs across the US and parts of Asia is really growing, and we don't know what it's going to do none of us got a crystal ball, unfortunately, so we don't know what it's going to do in 1 year, 2 year, 5 years from now. But given the propensity of its size and where it's headed, we didn't feel like it's a market that we shouldn't try and explore. So for us it was a case of, well, we should try and explore this market, we should try and understand its relevance to football and our fan base, and we should try and understand what works, what doesn't work, and the only way we're going to do that is to be in it. And you've got to be in it to understand it, to get a feel for what it's going to take to operate it, to understand whether or not fans like them, don't like them, to understand what the right price points are, to understand whether or not we need a different style of NFT. So all of those things you're never going to understand unless you actually try the market out, and that's what was important to us.
It's common, there are elements of some people love NFTs, and some people are quite anti the rise of NFTs. It's incurred some criticism. I know the launch itself, there were some Reds fans that weren't particularly happy, and that's part and parcel of being a big club going into a new market, I suppose. But also the club, I suppose, got to understand those criticisms. I mean, I suppose there's been some elements of it being the NFT marketplace as a whole being labelled as exploitative or unregulated, and that causes concern for some because it gets mixed up with crypto and all sorts. When the two things are very different, I know that there is regulation coming in around crypto, but I don't think there is around NFTs. I think they're viewed as something which isn't an investment. So how does the club kind of balance that criticism? How does it view it? And kind of in terms of its decision making moving forward, because you're never going to please all people with this. It's just that's just a fact.
I think, I mean, you're right. We're never going to please everyone all of the time. We know that, and we know that there are polarized views around NFTs, and yes, we recognise that that the crypto market is a sensitive one in some areas, but at the end of the day, we also have to look at it from a business perspective that says it's a growing market, and it's a growing market that a lot of sports entities are entering in, and therefore we wouldn't be doing the business a good service if we didn't explore this market in the best way we possibly can. Now, recognizing that some people think, will have a view that says we shouldn't be doing it. I guess my view on that is we can only be true to our word, and we can only be true to our values. And one of the things we are absolutely stressing as part of our LFC Hero NFTs is these aren't investments. We're not promoting these as investments. We're not encouraging people to make investments. We're not suggesting that fans should buy them to get access to the club that they wouldn't otherwise. That we're not pretending that they're fan tokens with promises that we can't deliver against. None of that. It's if you would like to engage in a new and exciting opportunity, and if you're interested in NFTs and you'd like one of your favorite player, then there's one for you. If you don't want to enter that, that's absolutely fine too. Don't buy it. It's not like there aren't other opportunities to engage with the club. So that's our kind of position and stance. And as I say, it's a means to engage fans in a different way, to build different communities, to get communities across different digital platforms, to understand fans that do like them, but to make sure we're offering benefits and products and services to fans that like other things and not NFTs. So yeah, we're just trying to take a balanced view on this.
Is it one of those things which is open to review as you move through the process, I suppose? Because this is an auction, and is it one of those things? It's essentially kind of dipping your toe in the water, I suppose, and a very kind of it's a sensitive entry into the marketplace, and one you've done. I know from speaking previously, have done due diligence around. But is it something which the club's going to review periodically and see whether it's something that they want to continue with?
Always, and in the same way we do for every one of our other ventures or any other new product that we might try and launch, or any other new service that we'll try and deploy. We'll always monitor it, and we'll always make sure we're understanding its performance from every angle. So is it appealing to the fans? There's is it having the impact that we wanted to have from a commercial standpoint? Are we still delivering against the values of and some of the important measures around energy consumption? So all of these things will always be reviewed, and we'll look at it. We'll assess whether or not we feel it's successful, based on, again, varying different measures, and determine whether or not it's something we carry on with. Like I say, unless you try it, you can't answer any of those questions. So I don't necessarily think that because there's a level of uncertainty around some of these new markets, that isn't a reason not to do them or go into them or test them. But at the end of the day, if we're going to be a progressive club, and if we're going to keep progressing into new territories in order to stay at the top, as it were, from a commercial standpoint, we have to do these things.
Was an element of having to look around what I suppose some of the mistakes have been made by others by entering in this space before you entered into it? Because some of the I suppose a lot of the criticism, the concern from some quarters is raised from, we've seen stories of it's like any new market, isn't it? You have a flood of new startups which happen, and they're not. Some are great, some less so, and some disappear as quickly as they arrived on the scene. And I know there's been stories of that throughout European football, I think, where the clubs have probably entered into the wrong kind of partnership with the wrong club, with the wrong companies at the wrong time. But obviously, it's that need post-COVID, I suppose, to try and plug revenue gaps where other industries have fallen away. And we've got a gambling commission review which goes on in the background, whereby front of shirt sponsors could be removed, etc. So I suppose it's one of those markets which has created a rush for capital, which has flooded the market and allowed for clubs to bring in commercial revenues. But obviously, you've kept your powder dry for a while. Was that to see how the NFT market space kind of leveled itself out across sport?
Definitely. I don't, like any new market and any new industry and any new technology, there's always the sort of there's always the innovation period where, you know, large number of entrants, large number of new participants, that eventually, you know, levels out in terms of, you know, the main players, the main technologies, the main platforms, the standardization, etc., etc. And so we don't, you know, we tend not to rush into, you know, a new market just because there's hype around it without making sure we understand it and try and do our own due diligence of what's the longevity of this market, you know, what are the things that have worked well and what hasn't worked well, where are the sort of, you know, potentially players to avoid versus, you know, ones that are legitimate, like, and you get that in every new market. So yeah, it was absolutely a deliberate choice to watch it, see what happens, understand what other sports entities do, understand where, you know, the commercial risks are and then gains are, and then actually do something, like I said before, that's true to our values as Liverpool Football Club.
Just to finish, I mean, the future NFTs, I suppose it's an unknown. You said yourself, it's you know, there's no crystal ball. I mean, it's here now and it's developing as it moves on. But Web3 is something which is going to be a big part of kind of the sports landscape, I think, moving forward in terms of commercial activity. Are there other avenues which I suppose the club's always got to be prepped for to kind of move into? I know they've already, things like fan tokens have already been thrown out. That's kind of been made clear from kind of discussions with Spirit Shankly. They said they refuse any attempts at fan tokens, etc. But I suppose as Web3 develops, there's going to be other avenues and opportunities which the club have got to be abreast of.
Yes, and part of my job, my responsibility in the team here is to stay abreast of all of those new markets and, you know, what that may or may not present to a football club like ourselves. You're absolutely right. We've made it clear, and we'll stick to it, that we're not going to do fan tokens, and certainly not going to do them in the way that they currently, you know, have entered the sort of footballing fan market, because we don't believe in them. We don't believe that the premise of having to buy into being a fan is not one that we support. Web3, metaverse, who knows? Again, I really wish I did have a crystal ball. Who knows where it's going to go? I don't know. What we do know is there are some very, very big organizations investing very, very, very large sums of money into building out that industry, to investigate in what a metaverse might do, what could it offer, what will it look like for consumers and in our context, fans. We're not going to, you know, we're not going to compete with those levels of investment. So for us, it's, well, let's watch it closely, let's understand it, let's see where we test or may test different things, and let's see what does and doesn't work for fans. And it will follow the same principles and the same approach that we have for our NFTs.
I suppose that the link up with Nike will certainly help in that respect, because obviously they're huge players in the metaverse now. I mean, they've made big strides in that. I mean, you can buy digital trainers, etc. So again, well beyond me, but we're getting into a different
absolutely. It's definitely a mind-boggling concept for sure. But you're right. I mean, you know, we're fortunate that we can work with Nike on such things and understand the most important thing in all of this, whether it's NFTs or metaverses. We want to understand what our fans want and need and are looking for, and it's important, and where they are and what communities they're in and what platforms they're on. That's, you know, ultimately, that's what we're trying to achieve from any digital product that we put into the market.
Brilliant. Well, thanks very much for joining us today, Drew. It's been insightful. I feel like I'm know a little bit more about NFTs, so I'm still not too sure whether I'm going to go out and buy any Bored Apes, but still I feel more enlightened nonetheless. Thanks very much to Drew for joining us today on the bottom line. And please do join us again next time, where we discuss anything and everything football finance surrounding Liverpool Football Club. So please do join us again. Thanks very much.